listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello, and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Joining us today is Stephanie Lee, author of Southpaw, A Tale About a Girl's Imagination. Stephanie has a degree in television and radio from Iona College, plus a liberal arts degree from SUNY Purchase. And she's the host of the weekly podcast, Talk Tales and Trivia. Stephanie, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, Stephanie, can you tell us a little bit about your character, Gwendolyn?
Yes, my character, Gwendolyn, actually started as being about me. It was actually going to be a non-fictional kind of thing about me and my struggles and how I use my imagination. And that was kind of because I have used my imagination, and I love the whole idea of if you use your imagination, you're creative, and you can produce and you can produce certain things in your life. And I love that idea. But don't laugh, because in the middle of writing my book, I saw the Hulu.com series, The Handmaid's Tale. And I thought, I know it's going to sound crazy, but I thought, gee, I love dystopian stuff. I love cataclysmic stuff. I just love it.
Okay.
And so I thought, wouldn't it be cool if Gwendolyn had some kind of something that happened in her perfect life that made her not so perfect. It made her have to struggle a little bit and to come back. But come back using her imagination, which I have done, actually. So what I did was I took one major event that happened in my life, and so I've created kind of a fictional story around it.
Wow.
So the event was that I can't use my right arm, and I have a hard time with my right leg. And then, and that's a whole nother story, but that was the major event. But then I created this whole fictional story around it. I mean, obviously I didn't have the cataclysmic event that she had. But in a way, I mean, there's a lot of metaphors there, right? There's a lot of things going on. She's a very nice person, and she has a lot of stuff going, but then all of a sudden she sees herself not being that lucky, right? Not being that popular, not being that person that she once knew herself to be, and she's very confused, and it takes a lot to get her back to where she's happy again. It takes going into the imagination.
Good.
If that makes any sense.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Everyone seems to be passionate about their book because it is their book. But because you took something personal, you must really feel like this is your baby.
It is my baby. It is really something I've been thinking about doing for about 10 years. And when I wrote the first draft for myself, I wasn't really happy with it. It was an angry draft. It was not the way I wanted it to come out, because Gwendolyn is very kind and everything, but she's had her problems when she was growing up. And that is what I really wanted to emphasize, is that, everybody has problems, and I certainly have had my problems, but everybody can somehow work around it. And you figure out your own way to do it. And if it's searching inside yourself, if it's just closing your eyes, if it's visualizing, if it's doing something creative, artsy or anything like that, that is what you have to do to survive, to make yourself a survivor and, in your life.
Right. So you said you had this, you were thinking about this for 10 years. What made you finally decide to make this a book?
Well, last year, I would say between 2016 and now, has been monumental. It's been pivotal for me. I turned 50 years old, and I said, what now? I had nothing to show for my life. Well, I didn't think I had anything to show. All my classmates had done great things like written novels and traveled the world and opened clothing stores in New York City. And I'm like, what am I what's my legacy going to be? And so that's when I started podcasting. And then, one thing led to another. I spoke at Podcast Movement, and then I said, well, okay, now what? And it so happened I was taking a class on writing, which I really didn't think much about. I was like, well, let's see what this is about. And so I took this class. It was a 3-week class, 21-day author program. And the teacher swore that you could write a book in 21 days. So
Wow.
I said, okay, well, I'm up for the challenge, right? So she was right. She was. If you want to write a book in a weekend or in a short amount of time, it is possible. But the book might not be
Perfect.
what you want to write.
Right.
And so she said that's what editors are for. And it's true. So I got all my things out. I got what I wanted to get out. And then about 3 weeks later, I handed it off to the editor. And then I started thinking about it. And I said, well, can I soften it up a little bit? Can I make her a more likable character? Because she wasn't. And so I said, let me try it again, again. So we worked back and forth with the editor. And I came out with something that I was happy with, and I'm not going to say I'm really happy with it. I'm working on the second edition right now. And that's weird because the first edition just came out. I mean, honestly, the first edition just came out, and I opened it up and I said, this doesn't feel right. And I think a lot of authors go through that, but they don't all of a sudden write a second edition.
Right.
Sure.
No, we have heard
Right.
that. We've heard that before.
Yeah.
People say that. But I like that advice that she gave you about, because first off, it's very difficult to say, I'm going to write a book. Then you write the book. Then everyone is worried about being perfect, or what is the reaction of people. And I like that she gave you that advice that's what an editor's for. So I think that right there kind of gives like breathing room. Okay, I don't have to be everything, right? Because if you can write a story and edit, that's kind of like a super person. So that's good advice, I think, for everyone to hear. You don't have to be Superman or Superwoman. Get your ideas out there, and then there'll be another expert who can help you through the editing.
Well, Stephanie, I want to hear more about the writing of the book in 21 days and the class you took. Was it a class like online, or was it a...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was an online class. I have a mentor, wonderful lady by the name of Peggy McCall, and she is a best-selling author. And she promotes helping people become best-selling authors. So I naturally grabbed her because,
yeah, sure.
We all want to be best-selling authors.
That's the goal, right?
Right. But the thing is, it's interesting because when I started taking her class, I wasn't even sure that I really wanted to write the book right then and there, right? I wasn't sure what, but I said, it's interesting enough that she's got me. She's hooked me in, right? It's interesting enough. So I took her class and I enjoyed it. It was very, very easy. She went through all 21 days, and she told you step by step. And the first thing she said is, if you haven't started writing, what are you waiting for? If you want to write this book, you're going to wait the 21 days? Or are you going to start writing it right now? Just sit down with a piece of paper, like, old school.
Sure,
or
you got to begin.
Or a typewriter, and just start writing. And that's what I did. And interestingly enough, I started writing with the chapter, Something's Wrong, first, and then I filled in the beginning and the end. I didn't plan it out or anything.
Right, not chronological.
No, it was like so funny. I'm like, okay, I'll just start. And I had just finished watching The Handmaid's Tale, so I said, okay, something like cataclysmic or apocalyptic or something kind of crazy, maybe zombies or something. I don't know. But so I started writing this thing, and I said, well, wait a minute. Okay, there has to be like a beginning. That doesn't have to be, but there should be a beginning. And of course, that's where it all happened. But I kind of wrote it that unlike what she was telling us to do. But she said to just start writing, so I just started writing.
Excellent.
And she was very, very good. But she also believes in and I do too, in the sense of, look, if you want something to happen, if you want to be an author, see yourself as an author.
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple, right? Imagine yourself accepting that check from getting royalties. Imagine yourself signing a book at a book signing at a bookstore. See yourself doing that thing and make it. And that's where the imagination comes in. And that's really what I really wanted to. That was a poignant moment, because that was when I said, aha, that's really kind of what I really want my book to be about.
Well, that's what my sister always says. She goes, visualize yourself doing that. It really will help. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
No,
so it's good to hear you
I'll
say
tell
that
you.
Also, because it's kind of reinforcing what my sister says. So
look at what I've done. I mean, I was pretty much, I had a shoulder surgery and arm surgery 2012, and I was pretty much kind of like, okay, what now? What am I going to do now? I was a personal trainer. I was this and that. I mean, I had a lot of different things going on.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So the thing is that you reach a point where you're like, okay, what now? Mm-hmm. So that's when everything happened within the year. Even my sister, who's very successful, said, "I can't believe what all you've done within the year."
Well, congratulations!
I'm like, really? Why can't you believe it?
No.
But that's another story.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I did the podcast, and then so everything kind of happened in order, and I think it's really because I was accepting my visualizing and imagination into making me a more creative person. Like, I've really begun to really see that the imagination can make you become a creative person, and can have you have your dreams come true, have your wishes come true, because it's just really kind of, it's there, and it's really just capturing that creativity. And like, one day I woke up not too long ago and I said, that's what I want her to say. Mm-hmm. And I wrote it down really quick, because if you don't, you lose it. Right?
Yeah. We've all done that.
And so so I take moments like that where I'm very still, very quiet, and I can really focus on just letting what I want this book to be #1 bestseller. I want to talk about the imagination, and then I just let it come to me, and then the whole process came to me.
Mm-hmm. So are you using your podcast to promote the book, or is that just another?
That is an interesting question, because Peggy said during the 21 day, we had these live calls, and she said people were wondering about promoting. Mm-hmm. And she said, you, Stephanie, amongst anybody, should know how to promote. And do you know that I didn't know what she was talking about? I had no idea. I was like, what does she mean by that? I'm going to have to call her and find out. And I was like, you know what? She's right. But I'm a little shy.
Yeah, that's hard. That is very difficult.
A little shy. Mm-hmm. And Peggy said, why are you so shy? Get out there. Let them know. And so I have been. And I do the Canva, where they have a picture and you can have a quote or something. And I do that. And I always quote something from the book, or I make a quote about the imagination being great. Wonderful. And I use a picture with it. So I'm always kind of reminding people that I did write a book. And it is out, and I'll tell you that I'm really I love the fact that all this has happened to me so quickly. And but somehow or another, something inside me recently said, if it had just been a little slower, maybe I would have been able to think about, the characters more, or given it more background story, which is it's missing, and the little things that are overlooked, that shouldn't be overlooked, I need to work on in this second edition. I really, really wanted an editor that was really good.
Okay.
I really needed an editor that was really on top of it, because I'm not. And I really had a hard time with it. I really had to work with the editor because I found out, picky. I found out that I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. And I mean,
which is probably good when you're writing a book.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I told them my name is on it, and I said, and so is hers.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We better get it right.
Right.
So after 3 or 4 go-arounds, we decided to put it on CreateSpace. Now, I don't know if your listeners know about CreateSpace.
Sure, we've talked about that before. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was the October 17th was going to be the launch date, and that I had like a Facebook Live launch book party, and I had already done everything.
Fun!
Oh, that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It was going to be fun, but they put the book out October 3rd, and I didn't really realize it, and so the hot new releases came out on Amazon, and I didn't realize that I was one of the hot new releases.
Oh,
wow.
But I was 42. I mean, by the time I looked at it 3 days later, I was 42. So
Great.
I thought that was pretty good.
Congratulations.
And I will tell you, I learned a secret, and most people don't realize it. And my sister said, "How did you learn all this stuff?" Well, you know what? You learn it from just hanging around the right people, right?
And hopefully listening to podcasts.
And hopefully that's right. Hey, you know what?
So what's the secret?
There's an author.
You're killing me.
There's an author inside all of us.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
So yes, absolutely. So the secret is that you have to be under a subcategory, like fiction, action, adventure, and then women's action adventure, and then dystopian women's action adventure, or whatever it is, you know. So, the best-selling part is very interesting, because you could be the best. You can very easily have a bestseller in that subcategory. And you can call yourself a bestseller.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I have a podcast friend that does Copy That Pops podcast, and she teaches people how to do best-selling, and she talks about that. And she said that her book on podcasting had, I think she said 3 buyers, and she became a bestseller because.
Wow.
Yeah, because
Great.
she was in the podcasting
Category?
subcategory, right? And there was no one coming out at the same time with the podcasting book, and so she became a bestseller. So now she has that to put on her resume and make it her business. Mm-hmm. And so that's something I have definitely learned. So you don't want to just go under fiction. That's
right.
You'll never, yeah.
Right.
and you don't want to be up against people like what we were saying, James Patterson, Stephen King. So my first thing was that they put my book under young adult coming of age, and I said, I'm not quite sure about that. But then Amazon came back and they said, we can't put it under that. So they gave me a whole bunch of other ones to put it under, even self-help, happiness.
Oh.
I mean, who would have known, right? So they had a whole bunch more, and they gave me like 8 subcategories and subcategories.
So then you're in all those categories, or you had to choose one?
No, you can only put in, your publisher can only put in one, but suggest other ones. but and then Amazon probably reads over the book. I'm not sure they would read the whole book, but they read over the book and they decide what the subcategories should be. And I got a very nice email from this person, and he said, I think that this subcategory, that subcategory, and he was very polite about it and wonderful. And he said, I hope you do well, and that was it. So he had obviously, he had obviously taken the time. And that was someone at Create Space.
Okay.
Had obviously taken the time and really gone through it. And he said, I don't really want you under coming of age. I think it's a little bit, I'm not so sure. And so that was it. And I'm very happy with it. As a matter of fact, I should probably look under those other categories, which I was only really looking under the women's action and adventure category to see that was number 42. But I should probably keep track of all of them.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's nice.
Well, it's encouraging to hear that they wrote back and they were positive about it, and they gave you a category that you were happy with. Do you think that do you think that they would change the category if you weren't happy with the category?
Yes, I do. That's why I think he wrote it because first of all, he wasn't happy with the category, but he said, listen, if you feel that this is not the right fit for you, let me know. And he gave me 8 subcategories. And they know the truth about the subcategories. Sure. And they know everybody wants to be a bestseller. So they really try to work with you. It's a really wonderful, Create Space is actually really great. I mean, they're wonderful to work with.
We keep hearing that from other authors.
Sure.
Everyone seems to be very happy with them.
Yes. Now, my publisher, my self-publisher, did the Create Space for me. And so I really didn't have to do very much. I didn't have to do the ISBN number. I didn't have to do anything. And so really they had to do everything, but I just had to kind of overlook it and make sure it was okay. The layout was okay and everything before they pushed that submit button. The horror of the submit button. And, they just wanted to check with me. And I found a couple of errors, and she said, well, if it's just a couple of errors, I would let it go. Because, there are only a few things I would probably let it go because everybody has a couple of errors. I'm not so sure about that. I've read a lot of books without any errors, and I've been always very conscientious of that because I will, and I do, circle the error when I find an error in a book. And I say, aha.
Right. Well, it sticks out when you read something that has the wrong punctuation.
That's right. He's like, there and there. You don't know the difference.
Right.
That's the biggest one I see. So, so that's kind of, so that's my Create Space experience. It really was great, and they were really very, very helpful. They reached out to me, and I have to give them kudos for that. It's really wonderful.
Great. And so I think I read on your webpage that you're writing your second book?
I am. I have a very, very cool thing that's going to happen. And as you can see, the Gwendolyn is kind of dabbling in mysteries and kind of doing stuff, and I keep bringing that kind of thing into it. So I'm thinking maybe about making her a little sleuthy.
Oh,
is that a word?
Yeah.
Kind of maybe a little, okay, she's happy now, but maybe she won't be. Maybe there's something that she wants to find out. Maybe there's something that's missing still, in her life. I mean, her life is perfect when it ended. Maybe there's something that's gonna come up that's she's gonna discover that she wants to find out more about. And so that's kind of the way I envision it going.
So then you talked about marketing a little bit with your podcast, but are there any other ways you have marketed your book?
I do try to promote and market the book. I have, I was at Podcast Movement this August, and I let everybody know that I had a book coming out.
That's good.
And that kind of thing. And you know that I'm not really. I've done marketing too. It's really funny, but I've done marketing. But there again comes the shy part. You know, it's like, how much do you want to, stick your head
Right.
out and say, okay, buy this book.
Right.
It's going to be worth it. And then there's the part of me that says, it's not perfect yet. It's not. I'm still kind of working on certain things, and I yanked it off of Amazon maybe too soon. Maybe I shouldn't have. And that is a story that happened when I saw a few errors that I know are there, and it's just bugging me.
Right.
And the editor somehow just missed it after like 5 editing sessions. And so anyway, maybe I yanked it off too soon. But the reason that we did that is I said, listen, let me just make these couple of edits and we'll go on our merry way. And then I sat with it for about a week, and she said, you were supposed to have these edits in like in 2 days.
Oh.
And I said, I kind of don't. I didn't know she had yanked it off of Amazon, and so I was promoting the book and marketing the book, and on social media, and I had the link to it, and if you go to the link, it says not available anymore, or whatever it said. So I said, oh no, this can't be. But I do have to say that. And this is, of course, like something I've always said, and you've heard something, everything happens for a reason. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting with that and trying to feel okay about that, because that was upsetting to me that day. When I said, well, you mean it's not on Amazon? What are you doing?
Right.
That was very upsetting. So I had to kind of rectify that within myself. I had to say, okay, I had to take a deep breath and had to sit with that. And then I said, you know what? I can make it. I have a chance now to make it better and to rectify some of the things that weren't right.
Sure. This was your opportunity. Yeah.
Right. Like what happened in the very beginning of her life that made what happened in a cataclysmic event happen in her life. And there is something in the correlation between the two things. And it's really not obvious with me just saying that, but it will be. It's going to make sense. And so I said, and I can also delve into more about her friends and how they've had an influence on her. And then I was thinking, I could also throw some fun things into it too. So some interactive things into it. So then it all was like, maybe this was a good thing.
Good, yeah.
Even though I'm a little, like, I still don't understand it. Maybe it was supposed to happen that way.
Right. When will it be back on Amazon?
It'll be back on Amazon in mid to late January, but probably early February, because I want to make sure I get the editing right.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
Sure.
Right.
Oh, I understand.
I am just floored at how much work goes into self-editing. I had no idea. I had absolutely no clue as to how much they do. And I didn't just pay for the editing as I thought I was going to. I paid for them to get the ISBN number. So they've done a lot for me. And so now I'm thinking, maybe if I get this right, I'll do acx.com. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No.
I learned about ACX, and they are a Amazon-related business that allows you to either find someone that's going to do the reading of your book, or you can read your book and they will get it ready for you to put up on Amazon. Either way, right?
And then Amazon sells the audio recording like Audible?
That's right. Yes, they do. It goes on Audible. It goes on iBooks. It really is actually a very, very...
Wow, that's really cool. I've not heard about that.
Yeah, acx.com. And
we'll put a link to that in our show notes.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. But this is the rub. The performer you can either pay them up front, which they don't really tell you how much it's going to be. I assume it will be, whatever. And you decide on the price, and it depends on how long the book is and everything. Or B option is that you can, you don't have to pay anything up front, and they just collect a certain amount, like you both collect a certain amount, like 40-40.
Oh,
Sure.
okay.
Or,
Right.
yeah, that way. And so that kind of covers the cost.
Sure.
So
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a gamble.
Right, and I do think it's kind of on the expensive side, and that's why they have that other option that you can split the royalties.
Right.
Because I don't think a lot of people could come up with the money that they're offering. That the readers.
How much it would cost to hire
Right,
someone.
but it's
Yeah,
a lot of work to put it all together, to get them to read it
Yeah.
and then to find the right takes. And
Right, and they are professional. I mean, they are professional, and I actually have looked into that. But I want to get the book, into the second edition.
sure, Stephanie, you've given us a lot of great advice today. And before we say goodbye, how's a good way for our listeners to get in touch with you?
Oh, well, very easily. They can obviously get talktalesandtrivia@gmail.com. They can also go to the southpawbook.com
Okay.
to
Great.
see it, and
then
so that's really a good place for them to go, and they can read more about it as well.
what is your advice to new authors?
Stop procrastinating and start writing.
Right.
People think, well, the time isn't right,
Or I don't
Well,
have
I'm-
enough time right now, right?
or I don't have enough time right
Sure.
now. You know what? You get up early. You get up at 6 o'clock. Normally, get up at 4. It's really a matter of doing that. How important is it to you to be an author? Hopefully, but you will feel so much better at the end of the day
Right.
because you've truly done what you wanted to do.
Excellent
is
advice.
important.
All right. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. You've been a great guest.
Yeah, you got a lot of good pointers. We appreciate
I
that.
appreciate you
Thank
spending
you
so much
so
time
much.
with us. It was great. So
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
If you have any suggestions for our podcast, please go to theauthorinside.you.com where you will find our contact information.
And until next time.
Right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.